So hi, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for having me. This is not a topic I'm an expert on in any way, but I'm here to share my experiences and learnings that will hopefully help you if you are or when you're at a similar stage in your career. So hi, I'm Myrsini. I'm a senior community programs manager and part of the developer relations team at Vonage. We're also super happy to be sponsoring You Got This From Your Couch. If you didn't catch our message earlier today and you've not heard of us, we do communications APIs. I've been with the company for 2.5 years now, and since last April, I've been a manager of a small team. My background is mostly in events and comms campaigns, and I've worked in tech for the past 7 years or so. Mention all this as it's relevant to what we'll talk about today. I recently became a people manager, and although I've managed teams of volunteers, interns, and other colleagues on projects before, this was the first time I'd be directly responsible for individuals. Whatever size company you work for, they probably or hopefully have some sort of training they provide and support for new managers, even if you're a new hire. At Vonage, I went through webinars, 6-week hands-on training, and if I needed support from my own manager or HR, they were there. I, however, found that there are some things that are not really taught in training. Challenges might come up that you don't really consciously think of or might not feel comfortable talking about. So we'll focus more on these aspects today. This is for you if you're a new manager or you're working towards becoming one, but I believe there's something in this talk for everyone. I'm actually quite interested to see what type of role or stage in the career folks are at the moment. So if you head over to Discord and the professional development channel, the organizers should be posting a question for you. So let me just check on Discord. So if you head over to professional development, I'll wait a bit and give folks the opportunity to have a look at the question and the possibilities, the answer. So it's about which point in your career are you at? Are you a manager, a new manager, wanting to be a manager, or you've not thought about it yet, or maybe you don't really want to be a manager, you're fine, just going at your path, being an individual contributor. So let's see what people are saying. Okay, most popular so far is you want to be a manager, but you're not one yet. So this is fantastic. So hoping you can get some things out of this talk. There's a couple of folks who are already managers. So if you have any input on this, feel free to share on channels as well. Okay, let's move on. So let's look at what we'll go through. First, we'll define the two types of roles, the individual contributor and the manager. Although to some this might seem quite straightforward, there are some nuances we will look at just to set the stage right. We'll then go through some examples of what challenges may come up if you're a new manager and how you can mitigate this. And finally, we'll do a small exercise and explore how you can leverage any experience you have from any part of your life to navigate becoming a manager better. I'm hoping that by the end of this, you should be able to think creatively and look back at your experience to figure out how you can tackle challenges, but also be able to figure out what you're good at and how you can use this to your advantage. So let's look at defining the roles first. So who's an individual contributor? They're often someone who is an expert in their field, a professional without management responsibilities. They can be good at things like communicating, time management, working independently, and a whole other bunch of stuff. They may be the manager of a process or a project that they can complete as part of a team or individually, but they're not responsible for managing a team of people, only maybe cross-functionally. And cross-functionally means, although they don't have direct reports, they can manage part of other people's time as part of a specific project. They could be on track to becoming a manager, however, they could still be growing in seniority without that being the case. Taking myself as an example, for quite some time at Vonage, there were only 2 people on our small sub-team, so there was literally no one else to manage. It was just me and my manager. When we started growing, the management path opened up. Now for managers, what are the main changes in comparison to an individual contributor? They're responsible for individuals, their happiness, and career progression. They manage a team and have a more strategic role than before. Another interesting way to think about this is that when you're a manager, you're not just in charge of a group of people, but also of their work as a whole. Whereas, as we said, the individual contributor is only responsible for their personal tasks or projects. Also, managers get invited to and attend meetings, again, on strategy, budgeting, employee relations, that the individual contributor doesn't. And finally, depending on resources and the transition, managers might also be doing part of their previous role, although this is the time when the shift happens to gradually, or not, if it's not possible, delegate responsibilities to your direct reports. And we'll talk more about delegating in a bit. Fantastic. So we've defined the roles. Let's look at what could happen when you first become a manager. You've gotten the promotion, congratulations. You've been wanting this, you're excited, you've had a good start, you're now a manager. However, as with any change, really, there can be challenges that appear when you make the shift between the 2 roles. Now, everyone experiences this differently, but what I'll go through are some examples of things that I noticed about myself, and hopefully they'll be useful to you in a practical way if you've had the same experiences, or just from a way of thinking aspect, to know how to approach challenges and different challenges when they present themselves to you. First challenge, imposter syndrome. You may have heard of this term before, as we often do talk about it in tech. It's a feeling or continuous sense of self-doubt. So in our context, it can be fear you're not being an inspirational leader, or questioning your own authority. Let's say one of your direct reports has an idea for a new project. Do you feel you have the authority to give them the go-ahead and the know-how to guide them? And practically, would you need to check in with your manager first? So right before I started in the manager role, I was quite confident in my ability to tackle the responsibilities, and I thought that my past experience had prepared me for this. I was also already working with and mentoring the person I'd be managing first, which made it easier. I was lucky in that sense. However, there were definitely parts in, for example, our weekly managers meeting where I didn't 100% feel sure of myself on what I could bring to the table, or which parts of our work I could have input on. A fix for this can be to make it clear with your manager which areas you're responsible for, what type of decisions you can make. This will help you understand the range of your authority, not doubt yourself as much, and be able to grow and build on your responsibilities. Another challenge that I partly experienced and actually continue to experience is that if you have a different way of thinking than your reports, that might affect the communication between you. Let's start with something that's related to thinking per se. Fast processing and slow processing. With fast processing, you might be able to process information and share your thoughts on the spot. Others might need to sit with it and share what you need from them later. There are many different ways of thinking, and something related here is the concept of an abstract thinker versus a concrete or visual thinker. Abstract thinkers can think about concepts and relate them with their experiences just by hearing some information on it, or with a minimum amount of it. A visual thinker, on the other hand, might be able to grasp a concept better by seeing a visual representation of it. If you have a good understanding of each of your reports' thinking style, you can shift your communication style to match them. For example, someone might be really good at chatting to you one-on-one and receiving verbal feedback, but someone else would rather receive this in an email, read through it, and then have a conversation with you. How you give and receive feedback actually can be quite crucial. And a way to ensure you're being adaptive And flexible as much as you can and making it work for everyone is to provide safe spaces to ask questions. Whether this is your one-on-one or private DM they can send you, ensure you set the culture and type of relationship you want to have with your reports from the start. Being comfortable and vulnerable can help them feel the same with you in return. And just to add a bit of a different dimension as well, that is definitely related to this, when you're working with a global team, and in my case, my small team is based in the UK and Singapore, you will almost certainly have different intercultural styles within the group. Taking time to understand and get to know each other casually, like on an outside of work and responsibilities basis, will give you more insight. Still doing previous role. Now, this is something that can often be seen with folks who transition from individual contributor to manager. You're still doing your previous role with the same intensity. However, you have the addition of all your manager duties on top of what you were doing before. This might be due to lack of resources, and hopefully it might only be for a transition period. In my situation and due to my team size, I'm actually still doing an individual contributor role for a major program that we do. So I do both the strategy and day-to-day tasks. For other initiatives, I've been able to take on a more strategic and consulting role, helping the team deliver. The danger of this is the increase in responsibilities can lead to running out of time to get stuff done, which can then lead to underperforming or even burnout. Ensure you're setting the appropriate expectations with your manager when the transition happens. Is this a permanent situation? Are you hiring someone to replace you in your previous role or giving more responsibilities to more junior team members? Try and work this out. The next challenge actually correlates with this one, and if addressed, it can help mitigate this. Not delegating. This can be a tricky one. It may be the case that you've done the role your direct reports are now doing for a while. Same maybe as you could end up managing people whose role you've never done before, and that's a whole different beast to tackle. But let's say you know the ins and outs and scope of their work, and you could get that slide deck done in an hour, no problem. They might need more time and more input. Here, you really need to look at your previous responsibilities and think about what you can delegate to your reports. They might not do it 100% like you at first, but if it's 90%, 80%, or even 70%, just leave it. It will not only save you time, but they will also learn something new. A way to decide on what to delegate is consider the importance, urgency, and accuracy needed to complete a task. If it's something super important, but you have like a month to complete it, have one of your reports take a stab at it and check in with them in a week. If it's gone wrong, there's time to fix it. Now, if something is altogether important, urgent, needs to be done spot on, it's best you tackle it. And when you have time, maybe explain your process to them so there's still a learning element involved, even if you're working independently to them. And another concept worth mentioning here is trust. Trust your reports to try and deliver as well as you would. And don't be so reluctant to delegate. Reluctance to delegate should fade in with trust. Final challenge we will look at, that of being too hands-on that you end up micromanaging. This is connected to challenges we've already looked at. And to be honest, a few of them can be seen as interconnected. Imposter syndrome or lack of trust, not being able to delegate, can lead to micromanagement. A balance I found, and some colleagues I found works, is try to stay involved, but not have tasks or projects depend on you if you, let's say, have to disappear off to meetings. Bring value to your team's work, but not be dependent for success across every single touch point. You can't be there all the time, and you cannot have complete control over everything. The sooner you start letting go of that control, the better things will become. And there's also actually the opposite end of the spectrum to consider here, being too hands-off. This could happen out of fear of not wanting to be perceived as overbearing. It can also lead to a communication gap. Chances are, if you're a new manager, some or all of your direct reports might be in junior roles and will need support and guidance from you. So try to find that balance. So far, we looked at challenges and how to overcome them. And just to stress again, this was by no way an exhaustive list, but just personal observations. So, is there a way to even anticipate challenges? How can you prepare by leveraging all the experience you've had in your professional and personal life to make the shift to the new role a bit easier and get into the manager mindset? First, I'd like us to do a short exercise. And to be honest, when the manager thing came to the table, I definitely thought about my past experience and what I could bring in from it. But this exercise is actually something new. It came up recently when I was talking to my colleague Lauren about the context of this talk. Okay, so I want you to try and think a bit selfishly now so you can get the most out of this exercise as you can. So grab a pen and paper or type in on your phone or laptop, whatever you have available, and write down what you're good at. What you're good at from the things that you're doing now at work, or again, maybe in your personal life. In your personal life, you could be really good at talking to people and talking about the problems and figuring out solutions for them. In a work context, it could be that you're a programming language expert, or that you have a good understanding of accessibility. Or if, like me, you work more on the community building side of things, your strong point could be event management or planning. This could help you turn some of the challenges we went through today into opportunities depending on your expertise. And also, actually, if you look at what you're good at and you document the steps you need to become an expert in that field, you can break it down for someone else and help them achieve what you have. If you want to share some of the things on your list in professional development, again on Discord, go ahead. I love seeing people recognizing what they're good at, and we don't often give ourselves a pat on the back, so we should be doing more of that. But you don't have to do this. This exercise is for you. I'll now give you some quick examples from my own experience and look at which skills that you could already have in your arsenal are also very handy or could be very handy when you become a manager. And of course, depending on your discipline, whether it's engineering, product, marketing, different skills might be needed, but there are definitely some universal themes. I've spent a lot of time working on projects and leading projects in the past, so when I did the exercise for me, in retrospect recently, project management was the first thing that came to mind. In my case, this experience stems from managing events and communications projects. I love organizing and planning in general, which comes in handy in my personal life as well. For example, when I had to move house or planning my wedding. Hope this doesn't sound too sad. But anyway, there are many skills a manager needs that you can get from project management, like the ability to foresee and plan stuff, understand workload, delegate tasks, and so much more. Seeing what's on your CV, contemplated on what you're good at, and spinning that into what a manager in your field needs is what you'd be looking to achieve when doing this exercise. We briefly mentioned cross-functional management in the individual contributor role description. It entails managing people on a project-by-project basis that are not your direct reports. This is a great source of skills a manager needs, such as listening and problem solving as well, and so many more actually. To give you an example, when I organized events in the past, I had to work with folks who had a line manager, so I definitely did not have complete control over their time. It needed to be worked out with everyone involved and consider dependencies. So I was working with someone internal from my company in that specific role at the time, who built the website for the event for me, someone who did the branding, and folks who did operations and logistics for it, none of whom I managed. This can actually be even harder than having a direct report. In cross-functional management, folks might be working on other projects or their managers have different priorities for them. So you need to maintain a relationship with your supervisor as well. This is great practice for when you become more senior or progress into that manager role. So if you're one of the folks that answer the question on Discord, before that you're interested in becoming a manager, but you're not there yet, and you're at an early or mid stage in your career, if you get the opportunity to lead a project, any project, go for it, even if you don't feel 100% ready yet. Mentorship and volunteering. This might not be or will probably not be directly linked to your work experience. Have you mentored colleagues, friends, or volunteered for an organization you're passionate about? I found that bringing my experiences in from even chats I had with friends about career paths and choices, it helped me a lot with active listening, something I feel is a key skill for a manager if you want to be the type of manager who's also a mentor. And another one to pick out is how to give feedback, which is a crucial skill on maintaining a good relationship with your reports and very important for good communication, as we mentioned before. Empathy. Now, like imposter syndrome is another concept you'll often hear about in tech, and I feel is useful to define it here. There are different types of empathy, but a definition I like, and I feel is quite straightforward, is actually from Cambridge Dictionary. It's the ability to share someone else's feelings or experiences by imagining what it would be like to be in that person's situation. So just to put it in very simple terms, put yourself in someone else's place. I try to practice this in everyday life. My experience and that of other colleagues I spoke with came from personal relationships with family and friends and has been adapted to a business environment. In a management setting, there's of course a need to bring business value, keep people on track, but also you're there to support your team and keep them happy. Understanding what others are going through can also actually help you navigate relationships with stakeholders in the company other than just your team and your direct reports. And understanding people's motivations is more intrinsic. And the higher up you climb, you could find the more transactional the relationships become. Okay, so we're about to wrap up. First, I wanted, as a culmination of what we looked at, to show you how some of the challenge and opportunity examples we saw can be matched to give you more balance in your new role. So here are some of the things we went through. Empathy can help you understand others and respect you have different ways of thinking and communicating. Cross-functional management can help you avoid micromanaging. If you've managed folks you've had little control over in that cross-functional management setting and project-by-project basis that we talked about, but the job still got done, you can trust your direct reports to deliver, over which you can also work on the process with, on them developing like their skills on how to manage a project. And finally, project management can help with breaking down large projects and ensuring you're delegating. Let's have a final look at what we learned. There's almost certainly going to be an overlap of your previous role with your new manager role. Challenges will appear, and recognizing this, having an open and clear communication with your manager on your responsibilities and not overstretching yourself can be a real help. We looked at how to leverage past experiences and turn them into opportunities, figuring out what you're good at and using it to your advantage. And I hope that you followed with the exercise, or if you didn't, you could do it at another time. I hope that the examples and challenges and opportunities we went through, although might not exactly match what you're going through or what you might go through when you shift between an individual contributor to a manager role, they have provided a light touch formula together with a discovering what you're good at exercise that will help you best prepare for the change. So thank you very much, and happy to answer any of your questions if you have them.